I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
This is where the fun begins.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Jedi Knights, the official Star Wars podcast of JoyClicks. This is episode 77. I'm joined by my Chewie, Mike Connors. How are you?
I'm great, man. We are here today. We're doing this, and I'm just excited to be here, as I always am. I think I've told you this, and I think I've said this before, but this is truly a highlight of the week. So, we have some good things to talk about today, and some good Wikipedia articles to discuss, and it's going to be a blast, Christian.
Oh, absolutely. This is always a highlight of my week, and for viewers who normally watch on YouTube, you may notice this looks very different from normal. We had a lot of tech issues getting this episode going today, so we should be back to our lovely faces next week if you want to see the beard progress on my end or what kind of outfit Mike is rocking. But we're managing, you know. We're not doing the
Yes.
holonet today, but we're doing a good old-fashioned... they got radio transmissions in Star Wars? They do, right?
Oh yeah. You got to think like during the Battle of Yavin, like Leia was communicating with those X-wing pilots somehow, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we're always going to find a way to push through and get the people the content that they deserve. So, I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Well, as always, we'll kick the show off the way we normally do with From the Jedi Archives, our segment where we pull an article from the sacred texts of Wikipedia to educate each other and the audience. So, Mike, why don't you kick us off this week? What is your Wikipedia article? And for audio listeners, if you hear sirens, it is on our end. Do not worry while you're driving your car.
Yeah, if you're driving a car right now and you hear sirens, it's just Massachusetts, not you.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you said this, Christian, but I believe we both pulled random articles from Wikipedia today.
We did.
And my random Wikipedia article that the Wikipedia gods gave to me is Pulsifer. I've never heard of this character before, but it's a character called Pulsifer. He just looks like he's a human male. He has blonde hair, gray eyes, and light skin, according to Wikipedia. Always with the interesting facts.
Mhm.
Pulsifer was a member of the Mandalorian Neo Crusaders, whose fascination with Force artifacts led him to unearth the powerful Sith relic known as the Moor Talisman during the Mandalorian Wars. So, yeah, I guess he's just like this Mandalorian guy. If you look at his Wikipedia page, he has this sort of old Republic Mandalorian sort of outfit. Would make sense since he was around 3,900 BBY. So, yeah, interesting stuff. Pulsifer. Who knew?
Yeah, interesting name. And Mike, we can dive into this when we get to our Knights of the Old Republic episode, which we're going to be doing sometime this month. But do you like the way that old Mandalorian armor looks? Because I don't think I do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of Revan too much, you know?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Sure, I see that for definitely.
I think the new Mandalorian armor, like if you were to look at Boba Fett, Jango Fett, Din Djarin, that sort of style, like the clone style, I feel like is just more iconic. When I think of the old Mandalorian garb, which we see sort of in like, the Old Republic, and I think in Knights of the Old Republic too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just reminds me too much of Revan. And it's just, yeah, I'd rather just keep that sort of costume to that character. But it was a different time, and I guess they have to sort of show that in some way.
I agree, and I'm glad we're on the same page. But my Wikipedia article this week is Cal Petran. That is Cal with a K.
I thought you were about to say Cal Kestis, and I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cal with a K, not Cal with a C. Cal
Yeah,
Petran
okay.
was a male human from planet Zakul who served in the Knights of Zakul during the era in which the Eternal Empire ruled over the galaxy. An elite knight who held the title of Paladin, Petran wore dark armor and wielded a blue lightsaber and force powers in battle. He was stationed aboard the Star Fortress over the planet Hoth and died around 3631 BBY when the Star Fortress was invaded and destroyed.
Interesting.
I'm looking at this dude's picture, Mike. He's got a pretty cool looking getup going on. I don't know if you
Can you spell his last name?
Petrin. He's got like Paladin is accurate. He's got a nice bright blue lightsaber. He looks like he's wearing some like
Mm.
worn copper and bronze armor that's got a nice shine to it. Looks like it could, be a member of the Lord of the Rings or something like that. But he's got this cool helmet with some Iron Man eyes on it. It looks nice.
So is he like a Jedi or something like that, or is he just like did he just find a lightsaber one day and he can use it?
I'm
Because
not sure.
I mean, he looks like a knight. Like he looks like the most knight out of any of the Jedi Knights.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the helmet, I feel like Paladin, like you said, is definitely a good word to describe what he looks like.
Yeah, I pulled up the Knights of Zakul page just to get a little bit of insight, and it looks like they at one point worked with the Eternal Empire. So yeah,
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it does say, I guess here, and you did mention it that I just didn't remember that he does have force powers. So yeah, I guess maybe.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. Well,
Good picks. Thank you, Wikipedia randomizer.
yeah, we rolled the dice, and yeah, imagine if I did get Cal, Cal Kestis.
That would be funny. I really thought so for a second.
It'll happen one of these days. It's gonna be like, oh, we got a random roll. It's like Luke Skywalker.
Well, I think we were talking about this off pod that a lot of the you know roles that we do here on Wikipedia just like bring up like one production assistant with like one sentence to describe them. So we always have to like repress the randomizer button.
Yeah, got a mulligan a couple times, but
Yeah, yeah.
with that, why don't we dip into a little bit of Star Wars news from the galaxy? First up, Mike. I don't know if you heard about this, but apparently Disney made a quote unquote real lightsaber that may or may not be coming to Disney parks at some point in the near future. Did you hear about these reports?
I did hear about these reports. Actually, not until not until we talked today. But as we were having technical difficulties, I did some reading, and it does sound very interesting. So, I had heard like many years ago, people on Reddit, on Star Wars Reddit, and just like Star Wars Twitter, were talking about how Disney had patented some new form of the lightsaber, and we may have even talked about it on a previous episode of Jedi Knights.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like some sort of like new rendition of like a telescoping sort of like filament that like you can use, and it almost like looks like a lightsaber. And I was always really interested by that, but I was always like, oh, that's maybe something we'll see, maybe something we'll never see. And I'm thinking maybe what if that was the maybe what if that's this.
Yeah, I think that might exactly be what it is because the reason it's in the news is that the Disney Parks chairman, Josh Diarmo, held a sort of press conference for park bloggers and slight tangent. Mike, I'm planning a Galaxy's Edge trip this year, right? I am
Yes.
blown away by the number of people who purely make livings and are like they get early access to theme parks the way that like people in the games industry get early access for games. Like there's a
Yeah.
whole journalistic sect of the internet that is dedicated to theme park stuff, and I was shocked that it's that deep.
I feel like Slash Film. Do you know who Slash Film is?
I'm aware, yeah, Slash Film. I've read some of their stuff.
Yeah, like I feel like I don't know if you follow him on like YouTube or whatever, but I feel like he goes to Disney parks like a lot and he vlogs about it a lot.
Yeah, well, there was an event for people in that sect to preview. I'm assuming, like in the age of potentially post COVID where the parks are back, seeing what's coming. And one of the things that were showcased to this crowd, digitally, of course, from the chairman was a functioning lightsaber. And people were freaking out about it. There's a bunch of tweets out there about people's reactions to it. They cannot take pictures, they cannot record, obviously. But the way it was described, it's still prototyped. Like it was a box. It wasn't like a hilt, but it was like you could chisel a hilt out of that box.
Hmm.
You hit a switch, and then a lightsaber light up blade comes out of that thing. And
That's
that,
crazy.
I do not understand how that functions.
I just want to see it. I want to see like how convincing it is. Because I was reading like some comic book article about it, like,
Mhm.
and they were talking about how they're just talking about how like apparently from people who were there, they said that it looked like a real lightsaber, but I don't know if I believe that, you know? Like I kind of need to see that for myself to really figure that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you bring up the patent because I was reading another report on this as well, and people were talking about how there was that patent a couple of years back, and in the patent it was described as a motorized tape measurer ish mechanic. So like a belt
Hmm.
that like spits out thing through a motor that is turned on, right? And the thing it spits out rather than piece of metal that flops around is a light up lightsaber blade, which again, I'm very much on your side. I need to see how this looks. I imagine it's got that Disney magic, so it's like, how do they do this? And it does look good, but man,
Yeah, yeah.
I want one of these.
No, I'm sure it looks amazing. Like I'm sure it looks really, really good. Because anything Disney does, if they're not going to put this in a park, like if it doesn't look legit, you know.
Right.
So, I mean, I believe that they could do it, but I just need to see it for myself. Do you think this is going to be something that is like what do you think the use of this is going to be? Like, do you think this is going to be something that can mass produce and like sell to people, or do you think this is going to be something that people can only experience if they're at the park? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like if they're in that hotel that they're planning on doing and stuff.
sure. I bet that this is going to be stocked in the park. I kind of doubt it's going to replace the current experience they have there, you know, where it's like you get brought into the workshop and then it's like a 20-minute show where it's like, oh, what school of lightsaber construction do you want to follow? And then they give you just like two sets from that specific design model, and then you can like mix and match to make your lightsaber hilt, and then you just like stick the blade in it. I don't think they'll replace it with that because this sounds way more complex than what the
Yeah,
experience is, because the experience is basically like the force effects lightsabers. You're just building the hilt, right?
basically, yeah.
This is seemingly way more complex. So I bet they will stock these in the park. I bet they will mass produce them. Um, and you just are able to buy, you know, a pre-built one that you can't really customize too much. I'm sure people will secondhand, of course, but yeah, regardless, I hope this shows up sometime this year because I am going later this year. If this is in the
Yeah.
park later this year, might have to mess around and buy this thing. I don't know, but it just sounds too cool, dude.
Now another thing I was thinking about was doesn't make sound. Does it sound like a lightsaber, or is it just purely for the visual effect?
I imagine there's got to be a speaker in there, right? If it lights up, it has to make sounds.
Yeah, well, I would hope so. I mean, I could see them being like for a first version being like, "Wow, look at this lightsaber. It looks really cool, right? Doesn't it look awesome?"
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, hopefully it does sound really cool. And also, previously when I said slash film, I meant Peter Scaretta or whatever his name is. I know that slash film is like multiple people.
Sure. Yeah, I think my like the only thing I'm really curious about here is how big the hilt's gonna be. Cause like I have, you know, you and I both grew up on those telescoping lightsabers, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Those things are a little chunky, right? Uh,
totally.
so if you're sticking like a like how similar is it gonna look to the props they use? You know, because I think the ones you can build are look pretty similar to the prop ones that the sequel trilogy uses, right? So like, how close are we getting with that? Like, there's just so many questions. If they can nail it, Mike, and if it really is, it feels the hilt. It looks like a lightsaber, and then you turn it on, and then it's just literally it looks almost similar to what you would get if you just pop a light bulb into that thing, but it comes out of the tube and it makes sounds. That's incredible.
That is incredible. This is like what I dreamed about having like as a kid, you know?
I know.
Like always like on the hierarchy, you're always like, yeah, I wish I could always have a real lightsaber, though I would definitely cut my arm off. Um, but you know, right below that is like a fake one that like acts and sounds just like a real.
Mhm.
And if they can really pull this off, which I'm sure they can, they're Disney and they have like crazy, like I don't even know, magic is the right word.
Yeah.
Um, I believe it, you know.
Hell yeah. So Now, imagine how much we're going to talk about this thing when we actually see it, because that's going to be a day.
Yeah, it's kind of a force that they didn't allow anybody to take photos or videos.
Yeah, and
I'm sure. I'm sure one of these days, sometime soon, we'll see this.
yeah, and May 4th coming up. I'm sure there's going to be some news, right? There's no celebration this year, but so we'll do a digital event. Maybe showcase what's to come.
Yes, yes, hopefully.
Well, speaking of Disney magic and making the impossible possible, there is a show that has existed. It's the last thing that George Lucas did before selling Star Wars to Disney. It's a little show called Star Wars Detours that I'm familiar with. I knew it existed. I knew it was a comedy skit show, kind of like involved with the creators of Robot Chicken. It was created by George Lucas. I think it fit into the old canon, but I'm not fully versed. Hello?
Dude, I don't know what just happened. Sorry.
It's all good. I was continuing, so I can just cut that part out. So
Okay.
no worries. Are you still recording?
Yeah, yeah, I'm still
Okay,
recording.
then yeah, we're fine. But yeah, it's Detours is one of the last things Lucas did before he sold to Star Wars, and it just never got finished. It's not like Underworld that was being worked on and then fell apart. But the Vulcan Reporter, who I'm not super familiar with, I don't know if you are, Mike.
I've never heard of them before, to be
Okay.
honest with you.
Well, they recently put out a report that a couple other sites have been like, they're not wrong about.
Interesting.
The Vulcan Reporter has learned that Disney plans to release the Star Wars Detours animated series on its Disney Plus streaming service. The CGI animated comedy Star Wars series never saw the light of day since its initial announcement in 2012, while by default not part of the Star Wars canon as it was before the Disney buyout. It is also starkly different from any other animated shows in the universe. In fact, the series is a parody of the entire franchise, offering a comedic take on what happened between the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. Lucas was the creator. It was produced by Lucasfilm Limited and Robot Chicken, so Seth Green is involved. And when it was canceled, there were 2 seasons completed. There were 39 episodes, but Vulcan Reporter is now saying there is a 52-episode series prepared to drop as a surprise on May 4th this year.
That is crazy, man. That's insane. 52 whole episodes. I wonder like how long each one is. They can't be that long,
Yeah.
But wow, that's crazy. I mean, if they had 39 of them already done, why not release them, right?
Yeah, right? Like the cast is pretty stacked too. Like they're D. Bradley Baker's there, of course. I think like Joel McHale is there for some reason. Seth Green, some regular Star Wars actors, Felicia Day. So they have a good cast, and honestly, I'm really excited to see the tone of this thing because I haven't watched all the Robot Chicken Star Wars stuff, and I have no other history or experience with that series besides some of their Star Wars stuff. But I think it's fun, especially if Lucas is involved, right? When Star Wars pokes fun at itself. So if this show can do that, that's awesome.
Oh yeah, and we know that Lucas has always been interested in media that sort of pokes fun at like his work.
Mm-hmm.
He loves like the Family Guy Star Wars parodies.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm pretty sure he said that he likes those. And it's just fun that he's able to sort of like make fun of himself, like you said, because Star Wars is like such a huge thing, and like he's such like an influential guy that like he has to be able, humility is a big part of it. But yeah, the fact that like they put so much work into this, there's like a trailer floating around like on YouTube that I was watching. I don't know if you had seen that before, Christian.
A very long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like really funny. Like it just looks super goofy. Like the CGI animation style is like very early 2010s, I guess.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, it just seems like a lot of fun, and it would be a really awesome surprise if they went through with it and decided to release it on Disney Plus. I mean, like, they can do that stuff now.
Mhm.
There's no reason why they shouldn't. I mean, I think when Disney bought Lucasfilm back in like 2013, I believe I was reading some article earlier today about this, and they were saying how, you know, they dropped Star Wars Detours because they wanted to focus on like more serious stuff like the sequel trilogy.
Mhm.
But now that that is complete dumpster fire and we're past that,
Mhm.
they can finally go back to Star Wars Detours. Look at that.
Yeah, you know, we took a detour along the way, but we've come full circle.
Yeah,
Um,
Star Wars Detours takes on a new meaning.
exactly. Now, the one thing I'll throw out there of like, I don't know if I fully buy this, is that I still think this would be hype and it would be very cool and I would absolutely watch a bunch of the episodes. Dropping 52 episodes of this show
Hmm.
on May 4th, the same day that you're starting up your new canon Bad Batch, right? You got a 70-minute premiere of that thing. That seems a little counterintuitive. I know they're two very different things, but like, I don't know, do you think that they would flood Disney Plus with a bunch of Star Wars content like that for May the 4th or what?
Yeah. I mean, I see where you're coming from, but I think that they would. And like they kind of did that with the vintage Star Wars stuff, you know?
Sure.
Like there is somewhat of a precedent for that. And I mean like it the thing is like it's I think the it's going to be obvious that like, you know, people shouldn't really take that seriously,
Mhm.
like in the context of like Disney Star Wars, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if they were to release like a bunch of episodes of that at once, I don't know if it would really make a difference to whether or not like the Bad Batch was successful. I mean, I guess like it would be a missed opportunity on Disney's part, because if they were to release it in incrementally and people really liked it,
Hmm.
they could probably like use that to their advantage to get more people subscribed to Disney Plus. But I don't think they're really interested on like making money off. Like they probably are. They definitely are interested in making money off of this. But I don't know. If they're gonna release it for May 4th, I could see them just like releasing all of them.
Yeah, I think I meant more of like having that massive amount of content, you know, maybe distracting from the Bad Batch. But
Fair.
yeah, I mean, you're right, because, you know, Bad Batch is going to be weekly, so it's like, okay, when would be the good time to drop it? So, yeah, I think I could see it happen. And obviously, it's not going to, you know, be a huge draw for, you know, like, no, I don't think anybody's subscribing for this. You know, maybe some of the bitter people that hate Disney Star Wars that were really excited for Star Wars Detours 10 years ago, like, maybe they're like,
Yeah.
oh, finally, and then they'll sub. But, like, I can't imagine that's a large group of people, you know?
Hey, if you're out there, I'm sure there's somebody out there. I'm sure there's somebody out there who was like super hyped for Star Wars Detours, right?
Mhm.
And then it just never happened.
Yeah.
That and now you know their dreams are coming true. They prayed every night. Now it's coming. Now it's coming to fruition.
Yeah. Well, ooh, I wanted to ask you this too. Do you think that they're gonna put it under the vintage collection, or do you think it's just gonna be labeled with a specific like Star Wars Detours specific logo in its own playlist sort of thing?
I don't know. I don't know. It's sort of like in the same vein of the Marvel What If kind of
Sure.
like that's how I feel about it. Um, so like I don't know how Marvel's going to sort of like differentiate that from like their MCU movies and TV shows and whatnot. But I'm sure that they could just throw it on Disney Plus somewhere and just like underneath animated TV shows and just slap like a Legends banner on it or something. You know, just be like, yeah, this is just like for fun.
Hmm.
I'm sure people who watch it will not take it seriously. Like I'm sure it'll be obvious that it's like not to be taken that seriously.
Yeah. And I think honestly, just on the visuals alone, it's like, hey, don't look into this too much, you know, because it does feel like that. It feels like a web show, kind of, right? Like that from the looks of it.
Yeah, it does feel like a web show. That's the thing. I was thinking about like how long these episodes have to be. Like they can't be that long. And also it's interesting that this would have been part of the canon. So we're going to be able to see sort of
Yeah.
like into George Lucas's mind as
Mhm.
to like how he wanted the interim period between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope to go.
Yeah,
Um,
is it going to contradict Solo, do you think?
I'm sure it will. Uh, yeah, maybe it's going to contradict even Obi-Wan Kenobi. You never know.
Dude, yes, please. Well, I'm looking forward to that. I hope it does come out because it is it's a name I've heard for such a long time, and having a comedic, you know, parody of itself for the Star Wars fandom is probably going to be pretty fun. And hey, if it kicks off, then who's to say they don't do more seasons, about other eras? Because I think there's potential. So.
Yeah, I mean, do you know like what this was supposed to be released for originally? Since Robot Chicken was producing it as well, like was it supposed to be sort of more mature, or is it supposed to be geared towards kids, or what? Do you know?
I don't know. That's the big thing because I feel like I always, whenever I heard about this, I was always like, oh, this is probably something that would be like an Adult Swim or like a web show type thing, where
Yeah.
they aren't explicitly marketing it to kids because, it's Seth Green and all that stuff. But I mean, Cartoon Network, I think back in the day, had some pretty edgy humor for some of its kids' shows, even. So, like, I could see this. Or I was surprised, hearing that it's coming to Disney Plus, considering there isn't much content like that there. I think the only thing comparable to this right now is probably those Family Guy Star Wars things, and those aren't
Mhm.
on Disney Plus right now. So, we'll see.
Right. They should put those on Disney Plus, man.
They should. They own them. So,
Yeah, that's true. They own them. That's true. Oh, maybe we'll get that for May 4th. Maybe what if there's also a possibility that this is completely not true. And we won't get Star Wars Detours
mhm,
on May 4th. And in that case, I hope we get, the Family Guy parodies.
mhm. So I actually, to close off, I pulled up the confirmed cast members. I can read them off if you want to hear them.
Yeah, for sure.
So Ahmed Best, Anthony Daniels, and Billy D. Williams. And for the nerd comedians, there's Seth Green, Seth MacFarlane, Weird Al, Zachary Levi, Joel McHale, Felicia Day, Nat Faxon, and Donald Faison. So.
Interesting. Well, I was watching the trailer, and the voice for the Emperor is the same voice in Family Guy, which I loved.
Oh, dang. Very nice.
So I don't know who does that. I think that's probably Seth MacFarlane, right?
Probably, yeah. I don't know who voices him in Family Guy, but yeah, I'm sure it's going to have a bit more of an edge to it than, the Lego Star Wars comedy,
Yeah, but don't hate on the Lego Star Wars comedy though,
I
Christian.
never would. I never would. I love that. But another thing that's been popping up in the news this week. I don't know if you saw this, Mike. We talked about set photos of Kenobi last week. This week we got some set photos of Andor.
Okay.
Now, it looked like it could have been in a shopping mall or some plaza, okay? It looked like this high-end, market for a wealthy area of the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Canto Bite, maybe.
perhaps Canto Bite. And down a hallway, there are some Imperial officers dressed in some white uniforms. Now, Mike, do you remember where we've seen white uniforms before for the Imperials?
Well, other than the stormtroopers,
Okay, fair.
I would say that we've seen the most white clothed white clothed Imperials in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Am I correct in saying that?
That is correct. Star Wars Newsnet did a little commentary on these photos that leaked, saying the white uniforms the people in the background are wearing are the ones used by the Imperial Security Bureau, which the Department of Advanced Weapons Research belonged to, the Empire's intelligence agency, which was in charge of matters of internal security and loyalty to the Empire. Basically, they describe it as the Empire's CIA. And we do know that a director of this very specific sect of the Empire was Director Krennic, who is still alive and kicking at this point. So, Mike, where's your mind racing right now about Krennic and Star Wars and Ben Mendelsohn coming back potentially?
I think we're getting Rogue One 2, the prequel, throughout through Andor, and I think it's I think Krennic's coming back, man. The guy, he's got it. Think about it. He was a great villain in Rogue One, wasn't he?
Yeah, dude. For those that may have not seen it, Krennic made it to the final four of our best villains category for our Star Wars March Madness bracket. So yeah, we're fans.
Yeah, for sure, one of the most underrated villains in all of Star Wars. Director Krennic. He met his fateful end on Scarif due to his creation that he didn't even really create, but was trying to take all the credit for. We know that. But yeah, I mean, we know that Cassian Andor is a spy for the Republic. He's been doing it since he was 6 years old. And if we're going to get a sort of TV show about his youth, we're going to definitely get some sort of spy thriller, espionage, Cassian Andor storyline. And it would make sense because it did seem as though in Rogue One that Andor had an idea about who Krennic was. And, I don't know. I just feel like the backstory could be written there if it wasn't referred to in Rogue One, it could easily be written in. And it just makes a lot of sense. The only thing is I feel like Director Krennic is part of this Department of Advanced Weapons Research, and the ISB, the Imperial Security Bureau, is sort of, I've always thought was like a different entity, though I know how they're saying that department is part of the Security Bureau. I don't know. But, since the ISB was like a pretty much a big part of Star Wars Rebels and everything, but it's definitely makes sense if Krennic was a villain. He's a super interesting character, and I'd love to see more of him. So let's get it.
Yeah, I agree. And Ben Mendelsohn's a great actor, so I'd love to see him return and be able to flesh Krennic out a little bit more, because you definitely get that sense when we see like the flashback in Rogue One that he has a pretty deep history, at least with Jin's father, and he does have a uneasy sense of charisma to him. Maybe that's just the actor, because I really like him also in the MCU as a Talos. But yeah, I think he'd probably love to come back to this role. Because it seems like he had a good time with it in Rogue One. He played up that character very well. So fleshing him out, I definitely think has potential, and I can, like you're saying, very easily see how they would bring him into the story. Maybe not like have a confrontation with Cassian at any point, because that might feel a little weird, but have a parallel story. It's a spy thriller. Maybe one of Cassian's co-workers is spying on Krennic. I think we could maybe touch on it that way or something, but it'd be really cool. Even if it's just a small cameo, I think having Krennic back is going to be very, very cool.
I don't know. I just think it makes a lot of sense to me, just regarding the fact that, Cassian's a spy and Krennic's into some really high, top secret classified Imperial stuff. So, I guess my mind was sort of going to like Cassian and Krennic sort of like face off at some point, but I guess doesn't always have to be as dramatic as that.
Yeah. They don't have any direct interactions in Rogue One, do they? Like, does Cassian shoots him at the end, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I said at first that they did, but then I was thinking about it, and they definitely don't, because Cassian just shoots him at the end. That's it.
Yeah, because I was gonna say if they did, then maybe it would be weird if like they never acknowledge it that like they cross paths in the past, but that could just easily be written off. But
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. They could easily write that in. And it would make sense. It's Star Wars. But yeah, I mean, we also know that the Andor TV series is not going to be just one season, apparently, because the actor for K2SO said that the showrunner had, ideas for him in mind in like later seasons, sort of alluding to the fact that this TV show is not going to be just one. So, I mean, even if Krennic doesn't have a huge role in the first season, maybe, if he has a good fan response, we'll see him, have a wider role in later seasons. We never know.
Yeah, and I think that'd be pretty cool, because we've talked about it before. I'm super excited for the casting show. I know you're a big fan of Rogue One, so seeing more of that specific slice of Star Wars is just going to be pretty cool. So hopefully it pops off. Hopefully it works out and we get way more of it. Much like how we're getting more of The Mandalorian.
Yes.
Now, Katie Sackhoff was around recently doing some interviews, and it was also apparently the birthday of Bo-Katan, right?
What? Was it Bo-Katan's birthday? I don't know.
I thought it was. I thought I saw something on social media being like, "Happy birthday, Bo-Katan." I don't think it was Katie Sackhoff's birthday. I could have been wrong.
I think it was it was Katie Sackhoff's birthday, but everyone was just calling her Bo-Katan. But I'm going to fact check. Let me figure this out. Yeah.
Well, she was doing some interviews, and the big, point of a lot of people's interviews with her was being like, "Hey, so what's next for Bo-Katan?" And surprisingly, Mike, she does not know, and she's been giving this answer of like, "You all know as much as I do. I really don't know what's next." She's been giving that answer for a while, but I thought it was interesting that she popped up again. She gave the same answer. And presumably they should be shooting season 3 pretty soon if it's at least one episode hitting this year. So I don't know. That was just me. Maybe she's just lying, but I'm kind of surprised that she's being consistent with that same exact answer potentially a month or two out from shooting the show.
Yeah, I think she's lying, man. I think she's definitely lying. You know how I think I sent this to you over the weekend. Did you see that Instagram post that she posted? And it was like the Bo-Katan's helmet as a cake.
Yeah,
I figured it out. It was her. It's just Katie Sackhoff's birthday, by the way.
Oh well, what day is her birthday? Is it April 9th?
April 8th.
Oh, just missed
Why?
it.
Why?
We would have had the same birthday if it was another day.
You what?
We would have had the same birthday if it was one more day.
Oh, okay, got you. Oh, right. Well, okay, so I mean, yeah, well that thing that I sent you though, it was Katie Sackhoff and she was like cutting into the cake and she said like, "Oh, this is what Bo-Katan's going to look like when she goes after Din for the Darksaber."
Yeah.
And I don't know if she was just joking, but like damn son. It could be I don't know. Just like that sort of just caught me off guard. I thought that maybe she was sort of giving some hints to season 3 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's probably jokey, but very very fun as well. So I guess the main talking point here, I guess I want to hear from you. Like, do you think that Mando season 3 is still gonna hit this year? Because like maybe she just doesn't have scripts yet. Maybe. We haven't heard a lot of buzz about pre-production yet. We know Book of Boba Fett is kind of winding down, and I saw recently also that apparently there's a rumor that Din is going to pop up in Book of Boba Fett, but I don't know. What do you think about season 3 of Mando, dude?
I mean, I think that it's still... Or are you questioning whether or not that it's in production right now?
Whether or not they're delayed a little bit, because I know people kept speculating that for some reason... I think they said that season 3 starts on Christmas, so like I don't know if people doubted that or what, but like if a main player like Katie Sackhoff is potentially unaware about even like giving like a we'll just see what happens sort of answer, but more of like I really don't know. Like, do you think that's any indication that maybe that Cara Dune removal maybe had to push him back a little more to rewrite some stuff, or like do you think we're just gonna dive straight into production this summer?
That's interesting because I think that there's a possibility that definitely it's because of Cara Dune not being in Mandalorian that they had to sort of like push production. I don't know though. Like we haven't really heard much. Like I think the last thing that we heard was that Book of Boba Fett was in production, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I hear Katie Sackhoff saying that she just doesn't know what's next for Bo-Katan, I think she's lying. I think that she just doesn't want to talk about it because that's a good way to just get people to stop asking,
Mm-hmm.
But I always thought that the December 25th release date for The Mandalorian season 3 always seemed a little bit too I don't know. I just didn't think that it seemed realistic to me, especially since they're going to release the Book of Boba Fett in December. I always thought that it was going to just be delayed sometime to like January or February, just because of all the stuff that's been happening. Like COVID makes things hard, and even when they announced that, I think it was like right at the end of season 2, I was kind of skeptical about it. So I don't know. I have no idea. I would have expected they started production already, and if they haven't, then it's definitely not going to come out for December.
Yeah, I think that's a fair expectation. And, like, it's weird. It's hard to pin down production timelines for this type of show because they have the stagecraft stuff that really shortens the need for, like, a production schedule and how everything gets functioned in post-production. But, yeah, I still wouldn't rule out a single episode hitting this year. I think that could maybe happen, but yeah, very interesting. So, I mean, the only other question I have about Bo-Katan is like, do you think she's gonna go for that Darksaber? We didn't talk about that a ton after the season, but has anything changed for you? Do you think that that's immediately what she's gonna go after as soon as we kick off season 3?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bo-Katan, you know, her character's introduction into the Star Wars canon with like the Clone Wars, she wasn't really like on the right side of things. Like we know that she will do what she needs to do for what she thinks is right, and wasn't she part of like Death Watch and stuff?
Yeah, at
at
one
first.
point.
So I wouldn't put it past her to sort of just like be blinded by the fact that she needs to do right by her ancestors and like win back the Darksaber and become the ruler of Mandalore. Like she seems like she's partially like corrupted by that mythology that she needs to like become that. So I don't know. I think she's definitely gonna go for it.
Yeah, I think you're probably correct. And it just makes it interesting, because we have Gideon for the first 2 seasons basically, but having him shelved slightly and then shifting to a more like, hey, who's in the right here sort of outlook for an antagonist for season 3, I think could be very interesting considering Din is also, questionable with his background and history. So, yeah, I think it could be very interesting for Star Wars to tackle that type of relationship. But
Yeah, for sure.
in terms of Din popping up in Book of Boba Fett, how do you feel about that?
I think it's probably going to happen. Yeah, we didn't talk about that, but I think that was something that came about this past week, right? Some rumors that Din would show up in that show.
Yeah, which again is, being pitched as a mini series, so we don't have a huge idea of how many episodes to expect, but yeah, Din could very well be popping up in the Book of Boba Fett, which is interesting because I feel like Boba Fett in season 2 leaves off on such a different path, but maybe, Din is kind of aimless without his son, so he's like, hey, I'll help you out, I guess. What's up? What do you need?
Yeah, now that I'm sort of thinking it through a little bit, I don't know how hot I am on that, only because it seems as though the Book of Boba Fett starts sometime soon, immediately after the end of The Mandalorian season 2. Like, he's brings Slave One to Tatooine and sort of like kicks Bib Fortuna out and kills him and takes the throne with Fennec Shand.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, to me, I kind of wanted, and we talked about this in previous episodes, but I kind of always wanted The Mandalorian season 3 to have like this big time jump from Mandalorian season 2. And if we're gonna get the Book of Boba Fett and it takes place like, maybe a few weeks or a few months after Mandalorian season 2 and like Din Djarin's showing up, like I'm not really sure how much I want to see that. I really just kind of just want to get back with Din, having him sort of like go through a lot of personal struggle, instead of seeing him sort of like do fun action stuff with Boba Fett for like an episode or two.
I agree.
I feel like it would sort of like ruin it, like lessen the blow, the emotional blow.
Yeah, I'm mostly on the same page with you. If it's relegated to just like he's in the episode for like 5 minutes or something, I would just like he calls him, he sends him a hologram or something, or like he checks in on him just as a little tease as what's to come for season 3 a couple weeks later. Like, I think that could be fun. just like not a direct sort of, hey, he's on the crew right now, and it's like, well, I want to hear about his struggles right now. Like, make him the focus, right? Like, if it's more of a background thing, just a fun little, hey, he's still out there doing some stuff. I'm cool with that, I think.
Yeah, I would be fine with that. It's just I would caution, I guess, against Din Djarin becoming like a secondary character in the show. I don't want to see that at all.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because, moving forward with this Disney Plus group of shows that we got going on, like Rangers and Ahsoka, Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian, like some of these characters that we've come to know so far will be bouncing around between main character and side characters. So I'm very curious to see how that transition works. And like, it's weird, but I feel like Din could fit into a supporting character role pretty naturally. I don't know if that makes sense. Like he seems like someone who is functional as the main character because he's just kind of taking it all as it goes, But as a support character, like I could see him like standing in the background of a room when Ahsoka is dealing with some stuff. So like seeing these characters we know swapping in between who's in the spotlight, I think is going to be interesting moving forward, and this might be the first example of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I guess like there's a possibility that they can do it right,
Mm-hmm.
and that they can prove me wrong and turn me into somebody who wants to see Din Djarin in the Book of Boba Fett because I think he is a good secondary character, side character. I guess like my first knee jerk reaction would be I would rather not see that, but yeah, I mean, I guess there's definitely a possibility of that happening, and I'm open for it. Honestly, if they're gonna throw Din Djarin in there, they could do whatever they want.
Yeah, fair enough, because like, man, I'm just thinking about like, what if he, has a little thing of like, hey, I got this dark saber. You weren't there to see it happen. You're another Mandalorian. I'm getting weird eyes from Bo. The hell do I do with this thing? Like, maybe that's what happens. Like, he shows up and he asks him for advice, and he's like, I don't know. I'm not that kind of Mandalorian. Go away. Like, it could be something like that. And it's like, okay, we'll pick up with him later. So I think that's
Yeah.
probably what's likely, especially if they're close to wrapping production on Boba Fett. Like, I can't imagine it's this big, extensive thing that he has a lot of, content and stuff to do in Book of Boba Fett. I'd imagine.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess we're gonna have to see. I'm excited to see both of them, though I wouldn't expect. Maybe we'll get an episode of The Mandalorian this year. Maybe we won't. I'm kind of leaning towards that we won't. But if we do, that'd be a nice little surprise. Definitely the Book of Boba Fett, though.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully we also get a teaser for that soon, because we got Star Wars Day
Yeah.
coming up. So if we walk away May the 4th with Star Wars Detours, The Bad Batch, and a trailer for Book of Boba Fett, I feel like that's going to be a pretty successful Star Wars Day.
That's a win. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Well, until then, we'll have to wait and see what's going on because this feels like it's been the lightest news week for Star Wars in a while. So, we're closing the gap between now and that Bad Batch release. So until then, Mike, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mike P. Connors, and also I should say that for next week, Christian and I will have both watched Gendy Tartakovsky's, right? That's how you say his name. I don't even know.
I believe so. Yeah.
His rendition of the Clone Wars. So definitely tune in for that.
Hell yeah, we will have much to say, much to discuss about that series. So, if you want to follow me on anything, you can find me on Twitter, Twitch, TikTok at Chun2D2. This show is available on youtube.com/joyclicks for the video version in the Jedi Knights playlist. You can find the show's Twitter at Jedi Knights JC. And if you want the audio version of the show, you can find it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or your podcast service of choice. If you enjoyed the show, leaving a review or a quick 5-star rating helps us out a ton because it just takes a tiny tap and a quick second to help us. And if you want to get involved further, you can go to patreon.com/joyclicks to support at the $1 and $5 tiers. $5 tier gets you producer credit on this show and all of our shows, like Chris Sakas and Aaron Easton. So thank you very much. But that's going to do it for this week of Jedi Knights. Once again, next week we'll be back with the Clone Wars animated 2D series discussion and hopefully some more Star Wars news to discuss. But until then, we're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
May the Force be with you.
Oh, yes, you're right. Beep is up.